In this video, I'm going to show you how to set up a file using Clear Varnish and Illustrator CC for the HP Indigo 7900 press. This design only uses Clear Varnish and CMYK and not any other specialty inks. Now before we get started, I'll point out that many times a design using Clear Varnish will have a dark substrate, and it will be shown to a client as a client proof. And it will have a layer simulating a dark color of paper so that the client can see how the design will look once it's printed. But in order to submit a press-ready file to TPSi, please delete or turn off this layer so that we aren't accidentally printing a base layer of CMYK ink on an already colored paper. Also be sure that you don't have multiple designs placed as PDFs on a single artboard. You need to have every single design on its own artboard properly sized to the dimensions of that design. If you're unsure how to set that up, please see our video on how to set up proper crops and bleeds and proofing your PDF files in Illustrator CC. Now, in order to set up Clear Varnish, we're going to be using three main panels: the Layers panel, the Swatches panel, and the Attributes panel. If any of these panels are not already visible, you can bring them up by simply going to Window in the menu bar and selecting whichever panels you need to appear. A layer of Clear Varnish can be applied as a complete overcoat to an entire design, or it can be applied as a spot effect over individual elements within a design such as shapes, images, and display text. As you can see, I already have the sample of the front of an annual report that we'll be using for our example. I'm going to apply a layer of Clear Varnish to this headline at the top, to this rectangular design element, and then to this square down here with the company name. I can either lay the Clear Varnish over this entire square, or I can knock out the text so that the varnish only covers the black areas of the square and not the text, but for now I'm just going to cover the entire square. So let's set up our layers first. I already have my design in a CMYK layer. Now if you have several layers of CMYK elements, that's fine to just leave them as they are, but we will need a layer for just the Clear Varnish. Go to the Layers panel and create a new layer, and make sure that it's the top layer. Double click on that and it will pull up a panel where you can rename it. Type in Clear Varnish exactly the way I have it here. This is case sensitive. If you spell it any other way, it won't work because this is the labeling that we've used to program our HP Indigo 7900. Okay, so now that we have the layer named, let's create a Clear Varnish swatch. Go to your Swatches panel and click the drop-down menu in the upper right corner. Select New Swatch. Now when that panel pops up, you can name it exactly the same way you named your layer, Clear Varnish. Again, this is case sensitive and specific to our press. Under Color Type, select Spot, and under Color Mode, make sure that it's in CMYK. Now go to your sliders and create a color that you want to use for your Clear Varnish. At TPSi, we generally use 100% cyan and 100% yellow, giving us a green as our Clear Varnish spot color. But you can use anything you like as long as it is in 100% K, because sometimes that gets hard to proof. The press isn't looking really for the color of the swatch, but it is looking for the swatch to be a spot color that's labeled Clear Varnish. Now once you've got your color, click OK. You know you have your Clear Varnish swatch properly loaded if you see a black dot in the lower right-hand corner of your swatch. I would recommend deleting all the extra swatches in your Swatches panel except for the colors that you're using in your design and your Clear Varnish swatch. Now once you have your design completed, also make sure that you have all of your type converted to outlines. To do that, just select all of your text, go to Type, and select Create Outlines. Now take all of the elements that you want to apply Clear Varnish to, group them, then copy and paste them into the Clear Varnish layer. Now if you're just covering the entire design that you have with Clear Varnish, just take your rectangle tool, drag it over the entire design and to the edges of the bleed, and then apply your Clear Varnish swatch. But if you're applying it to specific elements as I'm doing here, just make sure they line up exactly over that CMYK layer. Now with everything still selected in this Clear Varnish layer, go to the Attributes panel and select Overprint Fill. Now save your file as a native Illustrator file. Next, you'll want to save your file as a PDF. At TPSi, we prefer having files submitted as PDFs. It's only if we have to troubleshoot your file will we ask you for a native file. To save as a PDF, go to Save As, and you'll see the Save As panel appear. Name your file, where you want to save it to, and in the Format drop-down menu, select Adobe PDF. Now the Save Adobe PDF panel will appear in the General Settings category. In order to get the best color output on our HP Indigo 7900, we ask that you change these PDF settings. In the preset, instead of the default entry, open up the drop-down menu and select Press Quality. In the standard drop-down menu, select PDF X4 2010. You'll notice when you do that, the compatibility field will automatically change to Acrobat 7 PDF 1.6 or higher. Under the Options settings, go ahead and deselect the Preserve Illustrator editing capabilities. Leaving this checked will unnecessarily bloat the size of your file. You can leave the last two boxes checked. Now we're going to move out of the General Settings into the Marks and Bleeds settings. At TPSi, we ask that you only check the trim marks under the Printer's Marks section. Don't use any of these other settings. Down here in the Bleed section, use Document Bleed Settings if you have a bleed. Click the Save PDF and you should see your PDF open up. I'm using Adobe Acrobat DC. Even if you have an earlier version of Acrobat, you still have the settings that we're getting ready to look at. Now we're going to proof your file to make sure it will print correctly. Once you have your PDF file open, you should see your trim marks and the designated bleed area if you have a bleed. Once you've seen those are set correctly, go to Tools and look for Print Production. Open up that section and then look for Output Preview. You'll notice right away that a panel will open up, and the only thing I want you to pay attention to is the separation section at the bottom of the panel. You'll notice that it will show you all the process plates as well as the spot plates. And if you've set your file up correctly, you should see a clear varnish spot color listed under the spot plates. You'll also notice that it's at 0%. So you'll need to take your cursor and start moving it over the areas where you've applied clear varnish. You should see it register at 100%. Now, if all of this is reading correctly, then that's it. You're good to go and your file is ready to send to us for printing.